Have you ever really looked at an elderly woman, maybe your mother, or your grandmother, or even a woman you see at church, quietly sitting in the same pew every Sunday? She doesn't say much. She smiles politely. Maybe she moves a little slower now. Her hands are thinner, her hair a little grayer, her steps more careful. But if you pause, if you really see her, you might start to wonder, what kind of life has she lived? What storms has she weathered? What laughter still echoes inside her when no one else is around? What secrets are resting quietly behind those soft, wise eyes? You see, most people walk right past women like this. They don't ask. They don't listen. And over time, the stories, the lessons, the truths, they fade. But what if I told you that many of these women in their 60, 70, 80, and beyond, carry inside them some of the most astonishing facts about life, health, and resilience? Facts that science is only just starting to understand. Facts that culture never celebrated, but should have. Facts that could change the way you care, the way you love, and the way you age yourself. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why some elderly women seem to get stronger the older they get, not just in body, but in spirit? Why they remember the smallest details from 40 years ago, while others forget what they ate this morning? Why they hold pain like it's nothing, yet cry over a simple act of kindness? There's a reason for all of that. And today, you're going to learn truths you probably never heard before. Not the kind you read in a textbook. Not the ones casually tossed into articles about healthy aging. I'm talking about fascinating, deeply human insights, things about women that no one tells you, but should. Because the truth is, when you really understand what makes the journey of an aging woman so unique, so powerful, and so overlooked, you don't just become a better daughter, son, spouse, or caregiver, you become a witness to something extraordinary. So in this video, we're going to pull back the curtain. We'll explore 5 incredible facts about older women, especially those in their golden years, that may just shift how you see aging forever. You'll discover why their bodies age differently, how their minds hold on to emotions in a way men's never could, and why their strength, even in silence, is often misunderstood. And the best part? You don't need a medical degree to get it. Just an open heart, and a few minutes of your time. So if you've ever admired the quiet strength of a woman who's walked this earth longer than you, if you've ever held the hand of someone who raised you, and wondered what she really went through, if there's a part of you that wants to honor her story, even if she never told it, then you're in the right place. Comment below and type, strong and wise, if you believe in the power of women who've seen it all and still carry themselves with grace. And don't forget, this is Elderly Wisdom Guide, where we dive deep into the truths no one else talks about when it comes to aging, health, and the beauty of growing older. Go ahead and subscribe now, because what you're about to hear will stay with you for the rest of your life. Let me tell you a story about Eleanor. She's 82 now. Soft-spoken, loves crossword puzzles, always keeps a jar of hard candy by the window. But don't let her gentle appearance fool you. This woman has been through it. 2 surgeries in the last 5 years. A rough bout of pneumonia. She even caught COVID back when it first hit, when people were terrified, hospitals were overwhelmed, and everyone assumed the elderly were the most vulnerable. Her family braced themselves for the worst. But Eleanor? She beat it. She stayed home, drank her tea, followed doctor's orders, and healed, steadily, stubbornly, quietly. Her younger brother, Tom, 77 and once the athlete of the family, didn't bounce back the same way. He was hospitalized, faced complications, and now struggles with his breathing every time he walks up the stairs. It doesn't seem fair, does it? Tom was always the tough one. But somehow, Eleanor, who never made a fuss, just kept going. So what's really going on? Well, science has something fascinating to say here. It turns out that women, especially older women, have a hidden biological edge when it comes to the immune system. Researchers have found that while both men and women experience immune decline as they age, women's immune systems decline at a slower rate. And part of the reason is estrogen, a hormone most people associate only with reproduction. But it does so much more. Even after menopause, the lasting effects of estrogen continue to support immune health in ways scientists are still unraveling. It's like the body keeps a protective memory of all those years of hormone regulation. And that memory becomes a sort of shield, quietly working in the background long after childbearing years are over. Now, here's the catch. Because women are often seen as the more fragile sex, especially in their later years, people tend to underestimate them. They assume grandma's immune system can't handle much. They baby her. Overprotect her. Assume that he, the older man, is the stronger one. But in many cases, the data says the opposite. Women's bodies tend to respond better to vaccines. They produce stronger antibodies. They recover from infections faster. Not always, of course, everyone's different, but the biological trend is there, and it's significant. And that misunderstanding? It can be dangerous. Because when you assume an older woman is fragile, you might ignore the strength that's already there. And when you assume she's fine, because she's not complaining, you might overlook signs that something isn't. So what can you do? Here's something simple: don't take her resilience for granted. Yes, she may have weathered illnesses better than others, but she still needs support. Encourage regular checkups. Make sure she's up to date on important vaccines. Keep her hydrated. Keep her moving. And most of all, believe in her strength, but don't let it make you careless. Because Eleanor, and women like her, may seem like they're quietly sipping tea on the porch, but inside? Their bodies are fighting battles you don't even see. And more often than not, they're winning. And while their immune systems may carry this quiet power, there's something else that gives older women a different kind of edge. It's not just in their cells. It's in their memories. Because while the body may slow down, the mind, especially the emotional mind, can hold on in beautiful and mysterious ways. Let's talk about Mary. She's 79 now. A retired teacher. Lives alone in the house her husband built with his own hands back in the early 70s. One afternoon, her granddaughter came to visit, asking about the old days, just casual curiosity. And without missing a beat, Mary smiled and said, "I remember the day your grandfather proposed. I was wearing a pale blue dress with tiny white flowers. My shoes were too tight, but I wore them anyway because I thought they made my legs look longer." And then she paused. He dropped the ring. Right in the mashed potatoes. They both laughed. But what struck her granddaughter wasn't the story, it was the detail. The warmth. The feeling that came with it. It wasn't just a memory. It was like she relived the moment. That's something you see a lot in older women. They'll forget where they left their keys. But ask them about a moment that mattered, a birth, a loss, a kindness, and suddenly, it's like flipping open a photo album that only they can see. And here's the beautiful truth behind it: women, especially in their later years, tend to hold on to emotional memories longer and more vividly than men. Why? Because their brains are wired that way. Science tells us that two regions of the brain, the amygdala and the hippocampus, are deeply involved in storing and processing emotional memories. And research shows these areas stay more active, even in aging women. That means that while some memories fade with time, the ones wrapped in feeling, the ones soaked in joy, grief, hope, or love, those stick around. They're not just facts she remembers. They're feelings she re-experiences. And that's a kind of wisdom no textbook can replicate. But here's where people get it wrong. Some folks hear the same story twice and roll their eyes. She already told us that. Or worse, they assume she's stuck in the past, lost in nostalgia. But what if she's not? What if she's choosing to keep those memories alive, because they anchor her? Because in a world that keeps moving faster and faster, those emotional memories remind her who she is, where she's been, and what truly matters. And you know what? They remind us, too. That story she told about her wedding day? Or the one about the time she lost a baby's sock at the park and cried like it was the end of the world? Those aren't just stories. They're threads, connecting one generation to the next. So, what can you do? Let her tell it again. Even if you've heard it before, listen like it's the first time. Because chances are, you'll hear something new. A word she never used before. A feeling she hadn't shared. A tiny detail that makes it all real again. And when you listen, you're not just keeping her mind active, you're validating her life. You're giving her a stage. You're telling her, I see you. And your story matters. And here's something else most people don't realize. Every time she relives those memories, especially the joyful ones, it's like a workout for her brain. You're helping her preserve her mental sharpness, not just by asking questions, but by valuing the answers. So the next time she starts a sentence with "back in my day," don't change the subject. Lean in. Smile. Ask, and then what happened? Because buried in that moment might be the one story you'll never forget. And while memory is one of the great superpowers aging women carry, there's another kind of strength they rarely talk about, one that lives in the body, in silence, and often, in pain. Let me tell you about Joan. She's 85 now. Still makes her own breakfast, still insists on tending her little backyard garden, even when her knees beg her not to. A few years ago, Joan slipped in her kitchen. Nothing dramatic. No loud scream. Just a quiet thud. She fractured her hip, but didn't even call anyone right away. She just sat there on the floor, breathing through the pain, waiting for the discomfort to ease enough so she could drag herself to the phone. When her son got the call, he rushed over, panicked. But when he walked in, Joan looked up and said calmly, "Don't worry, I've had worse." He blinked, stunned. "Mom, you fractured your hip." She just shrugged. "I thought it was just a bad bruise." Her son always said, "Mom's tough." But what most people miss, is why she's so tough. Because this isn't just about being stoic or brave. This is about something deeper. Something biological. You see, science has shown that women actually process pain differently than men, and it's not just about how pain feels, but how the brain manages it. When men experience pain, their brains tend to process it in a straightforward, physical way, more reactive, more isolated. But women? Women's brains activate more areas, especially those tied to emotion and memory. They use both emotion and cognition to navigate pain, meaning they're not just feeling it, they're interpreting it, managing it, and adapting to it all at once. In other words, they endure it. And here's the twist, while women report pain more often, they actually tolerate it longer. Now think about that for a moment. An elderly woman may tell you, "Oh, it's just a little ache," while quietly pushing through something that would send most people straight to the emergency room. She's learned, over decades, to carry pain without complaint. Through childbirth, arthritis, hormonal shifts, caregiving stress, loss, grief, she's been conditioned, by life itself, not to make a fuss. But this leads to a dangerous misunderstanding. Because society often labels elderly women as complainers when they speak up, and ignores them when they stay silent. It's heartbreaking how many older women suffer in silence. They whisper about their discomfort. Or they smile through it because they don't want to burden anyone. Or worse, they've had years of their pain being dismissed, by doctors, family members, or even themselves, so they've learned to downplay it. But listen closely. If an older woman in your life, your mother, your aunt, a neighbor, says something doesn't feel right, even if she says it lightly, pay attention. Because chances are, if she's saying it out loud, it's already far worse than she's letting on. And if she says nothing, watch how she moves. Does she wince getting up from a chair? Is she sitting less, walking less, sleeping more? These subtle cues are often cries for help wrapped in silence. So what can you do? Be curious. Be present. Be gentle. Ask open-ended questions. Are you feeling okay today? Does anything hurt when you stand up? Is something bothering you, even a little? Give her space to be honest, and remind her it's not a sign of weakness to speak up. It's a form of strength. Because acknowledging pain takes more courage than hiding it. And the next time you hear someone say, "Oh, she's just tough," remember, that toughness didn't come from nowhere. It came from a lifetime of shouldering burdens no one ever saw. Of getting things done, even when her body begged her not to. Of being the pillar for everyone else, while her own cracks went unnoticed. So, the next time she shrugs and says, "I'm fine," don't let that be the end of the conversation. Because beneath that quiet strength might be pain she's learned to carry alone. And while pain tells part of her story, there's another kind of strength she carries, one you might not see at first glance. It shows up in how she remembers birthdays. In how she checks in on her neighbors. In how she holds the community together with nothing but her words and her presence. If you've ever spent time in a senior community, a church group, or even just a quiet neighborhood with older folks, you'll notice something. It's usually the women, especially those over 60, who hold everything together. They're the ones who remember when your doctor's appointment is. They know whose daughter just had a baby, and whose husband just passed away. They're the ones organizing potlucks, writing birthday cards by hand, calling neighbors just to say, "How are you doing today?" Take someone like Ms. Darlene, 74, living in a quiet retirement home. She's not on the board, doesn't hold any official title, but somehow, she's the one who knows when the new resident moved in, who's feeling lonely in room 106, and when the gardener's mother fell ill. Every Tuesday, she makes tea and invites 3 other ladies to her apartment. One's battling memory loss, one just lost her husband, and the third hardly speaks at all. But by the time they leave, you'd think they just stepped out of a comedy club. Why? Because Darlene knows what we so often forget: connection heals. Now here's the science behind it. As women age, estrogen naturally declines, but another hormone, oxytocin, stays surprisingly active. You may have heard of it as the bonding hormone, the one that floods in during childbirth or when you hug someone you love. But oxytocin also shows up in moments of empathy, trust, and connection. And in older women, this hormone doesn't disappear with age, it continues to fuel their desire to nurture, support, and bring people together. That's why so many older women naturally step into these unspoken leadership roles in their communities. It's not just kindness. It's biology and wisdom working hand in hand. But here's where the world gets it wrong. Too often, people label these women as busybodies. They say things like, "She's always in everyone's business," or "She talks too much." But let me ask you, is it meddling to check in on someone who hasn't come out of their apartment in 3 days? Is it chattiness when a woman remembers your anniversary, even when you forget? No. That's emotional labor. That's community building. That's holding space for people who don't even know they need it. These women aren't intruding. They're maintaining the emotional fabric of the community. And when they stop, everyone feels it. Depression rises. Loneliness creeps in. The silence becomes heavy. Because what they bring, this social glue, isn't something you can replace with medication or a new activities coordinator. So, what can we do? Encourage them. Support them. Include them. Don't roll your eyes when she wants to start a birthday list or organize a holiday potluck. Don't brush her off when she wants to check in on someone who seems fine. Because these efforts, however small, aren't just for others. They're helping her, too. Studies show that older adults who stay socially involved have better cognitive health, lower risks of depression, and even longer lifespans. And for women especially, the benefits are even more pronounced. So instead of silencing her voice, lift it. Instead of teasing her for being too involved, thank her for still caring enough to be involved at all. Because in a world that often forgets its elders, especially women, her instinct to care is a gift, one she's still offering, even after all she's been through. And while her social strength is beautifully visible, woven through handshakes, smiles, and check-in calls, there's one more kind of power she carries. A power so quiet, most people miss it. It doesn't show up in conversation or gatherings. It hides in journals, in sleepless nights, in eyes that smile even when the heart is tired. Lillian was the kind of woman everyone loved at church. Always the first to greet you at the door. Always had a peppermint in her purse. Always smiling, warm, kind, and gracious. Every Sunday, people would say, there's just something about her spirit. She never missed a service. She sent birthday cards to children in the congregation. She baked her famous lemon squares for every potluck. To everyone around her, Lillian was doing just fine. But a few months after she passed, her granddaughter found an old journal tucked away in the back of a closet. The pages were soft, worn, written in a neat but trembling hand. And what was inside wasn't what anyone expected. Loneliness. Guilt. Grief. Questions with no answers. Pain that had been buried under years of, "I'm okay." Lillian had spent so much of her life taking care of others, she'd forgotten how to ask for care herself. And sadly, she's not alone. See, here's the truth most people don't know: older women often hide their depression better than men. And not because they're less affected, but because they've learned to hide it. Decades of being mothers, grandmothers, wives, caregivers, church members, volunteers, they've been taught that their job is to keep things together. To smile. To serve. To stay strong for everyone else. And in that role, they often push their own emotional needs to the side. Even when they're hurting. Science backs this up. Research shows that women, especially in later life, are more likely to internalize emotional pain. That means they feel it deeply, but they rarely show it in ways we're trained to recognize. Instead of bursts of anger or obvious sadness, it shows up as fatigue. As withdrawal. As forgetting appointments. Sometimes it's subtle, a soft sigh, a delayed reply, a missed church gathering here and there. And yet, because they're still smiling, still putting others first, no one asks. Because the world assumes, she's fine. But fine doesn't always mean okay. And this assumption? It's dangerous. Because depression in older women is often missed, and therefore untreated. It can quietly impact sleep, memory, appetite, and even heart health. It affects how they engage with others, and how they see themselves. But unlike younger generations, many of these women were raised in a time when mental health wasn't discussed. You didn't talk about feelings. You prayed. You got busy. You kept going. So, what do? We look closer. We listen longer. We ask questions with patience and care. Instead of, "Are you okay?" Try, "What's been on your mind lately? How are you really feeling these days? What's been hard for you recently?" And then, this is the hard part, be still. Give her space. Don't rush the answer. Let her feel safe enough to say, "Actually, I've been lonely." Because when a woman like Lillian opens up, even just a little, that's not weakness. That's courage. And your response in that moment can be life-changing. Maybe it's a regular phone call. Maybe it's bringing her into more social circles. Maybe it's encouraging her to talk to someone, without judgment. And sometimes, it's just being there. Sitting in silence. Holding her hand. Letting her know she's seen. Because behind every aging woman who seems fine may be decades of emotional weight she's never had the permission, or the opportunity, to unload. So don't let the smile fool you. Don't assume the one who always helps others doesn't need help herself. Because the strongest women? They often carry the heaviest hearts. And they won't ask you to notice. But deep down, they hope someone will. It's not easy, coming to terms with the idea that the strongest women in our lives might also be the ones suffering in silence. The mothers who raised us. The sisters who stood by us. The grandmothers who gave us wisdom wrapped in warm hugs and bedtime stories. They've always been our foundation, unshakable, reliable, constant. But beneath that quiet strength, sometimes lies exhaustion, unspoken grief, and decades of self-sacrifice. And here's the truth most of us miss: their silence isn't weakness. It's discipline. It's loyalty. It's love. It's the deep belief that their purpose is to hold others up, even while they're falling apart themselves. And when we finally begin to see that, it doesn't break the image we had of them. It deepens it. Because honoring them means moving beyond praise. It means presence. It means listening, not just to their words, but to the pauses, the hesitations, the things left unsaid. It means understanding that strength can look like perseverance. But it can also look like vulnerability that took years to finally show. So, let's reframe how we see aging women. Not as fragile. Not as burdens. Not as people simply holding on. But as quiet warriors, who still have stories to tell, needs to be met, and love to receive. Recognizing their resilience doesn't make us fearful, it makes us ready. Ready to support them with dignity. Ready to cherish them while they're here. Ready to pass on their legacy of wisdom, courage, and care. This week, take a moment. Call your mom. Visit your grandmother. Speak to the elderly woman who lives across the street. But don't just ask how her knees are. Ask about her heart. Ask what she's been missing. Ask what still brings her joy. Because when you do, you'll realize, she's not just living out her final chapter. She's still shaping yours. And with a little more awareness, we can make sure that her story continues with honor. Because she carried generations. Now it's time we carry her legacy, with care, attention, and above all, gratitude. Let's quickly revisit what we've uncovered today. Fact 1: Women's immune systems age slower, offering surprising resilience. Fact 2: They retain emotional memories longer, enriching family stories and identity. Fact 3: Their pain tolerance is stronger, but their complaints are often softer. Fact 4: They're the heart of social communities, binding generations together. Fact 5, and perhaps most importantly, they often hide emotional struggles, even behind the warmest smiles. Each of these truths pulls back the curtain on a reality we've overlooked for too long. And it's time we change that. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these facts moved you the most? Was it the memory keeping? The hidden strength? The quiet endurance? Or do you have a personal story about an incredible elderly woman who's impacted your life? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Let's fill this space with stories, tributes, and reflections that keep their wisdom alive. And if this video shifted your perspective, even just a little, tap the like button. Hit subscribe to join our growing family here at Elderly Wisdom Guide. Each day, we dive deeper into the heart of aging, with stories, science, and soul. Because every senior deserves to be seen, not just supported. So until next time, stay strong. Stay wise. And remember, every wrinkle is a sentence in a story still being written. Let's keep reading. Let's keep honoring. Let's keep listening.